So it's always easier to say, okay, just generate something here without any context. There are so many subjective things in a building project, so I don't think architects will be replaced for quite a while, to be honest.
Welcome to PA Talks. In this episode, we're delighted to introduce Jesper Wallgren, a Swedish architect and co-founder of Finch 3D, a tech firm that integrates AI with architecture to streamline design processes. His work, particularly in developing algorithms for efficient design workflow, led to creation of Finch 3D, a tool that automates floor plan generation and optimizes designs, enhancing architects' focus on creativity. Join us as we discuss Jesper's journey that led the creation of Finch 3D, where he positions technology as a complement to architectural creativity, not a replacement. Before moving ahead, let's take a moment and spotlight Academy, an online architectural educational platform dedicated to the exploration of parametric design, computational tools, and artificial intelligence in architecture. Academy serves as a bridge to advanced design techniques, fostering collaboration with pioneering architects and designers. Through the online courses at the Academy, we dive deep into the multifaceted world of computational design, engaging with a wide array of topics that push the boundaries of architecture. You can register and join the live workshops or watch the previous studio workshops recordings. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell notification so you don't miss any new uploads. So if you guys are ready, let's get into the podcast. So welcome, Jesper, to PA Talks, and this is an honor to have you in our show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Very nice to be here, and I'm looking forward to our talk about architecture and AI and the future of that.
So where are you joining right now from?
Yeah, I'm joining from Sweden, Malmö, right next to Copenhagen.
It's great. Nice to meet you. Truly, you're one of the pioneers in our industry and trying to make a change in the way that we do architecture. But if you wanted to go back and check a little bit about your background, where did you study? How did you become an architect? Maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I think I've always been a very creative person, creative kid. I like to paint and draw and this kind of thing. So when I started to, reach my teens and so on, I was always building stuff and so on and tried to find new ways of being creative. And it started out actually in a rock band. That was my first career. My plan was to be a rock and roll star. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
So you have this artistic character, probably.
Yeah, maybe whether you're an artist or not, I think it's up to others. But I've always been into this kind of creative things, and I think it was during my time in the rock band I learned a lot about making videos, writing lyrics, communicating, and these kind of things. And then I guess it came to a point where I figured, I think I'm going to get a real job or occupation. So I started to work at a construction site as a concrete worker. That was my kind of first experience with the built environment and with AEC. And turns out that after a couple of months at the construction site, I figured, well, maybe it would be more fun to design the building and so on. And I've always been very happy about math, and so I actually just left the same day the construction site and enrolled in a school, read math for a year, and then I started to think, what can I do with this math that is creative? And then I applied to the architecture school in Copenhagen, and I got accepted. I didn't know much about it at that point, but that was how I got into architecture, basically.
Yeah, that's great. So you studied a bachelor's of architecture in Copenhagen?
Yeah.
When was this?
When that's a good. I think I graduated 2013. Yep.
That's great. And after that, you started working in offices. And how does that follow the years after?
Yeah. So I went to school in Copenhagen, and I did an internship in Barcelona. And then I went back to Copenhagen and CETA and studied under Martin Tamke there for a while. And then when I got out of school, I figured, why don't start my own architecture company? So I did that basically.
Like every architecture graduate.
Yeah, exactly. And then my wife and the CEO of Finch, actually, Pamela, she had an interior business, and then we started to collaborate and so on, and things evolved from that. And that architecture company was where we also developed a lot of prototype that then turned into Finch, actually.
Yeah, that's quite cool. So where did the inspiration for Finch 3D come from? How did it emerge, and what was the motivation?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, we had our own practice. We were a small firm, a handful of architects. We were using Rhino a lot, and I was very into Grasshopper early on. And we just started kind of building these prototypes to enhance, make our own workflow more efficient. So it was really like sprung of a need to be more efficient, do cooler things, do better things. I remember one project we had, it was for 100 villas that was in a slope, and there was no one that could handle the terrain. And we figured, let's do a script that handle the terrain here. And this was the kind of tools that we were building internally, just for ourselves, basically, to solve problems. Real problems. These tools was actually that's the inspiration to Finch, I would say.
I remember those days. And how did you see this gap? Like, where was the moment that you saw, okay, now with the softwares that I know, with the knowledge that I have with Grasshopper and all these computational tools, how did you think of creating such a software? Basically, if you're a Grasshopper user, maybe it's some algorithms put in together so they can work or they can perform in a way that you can create a type of adaptive plans or a type of the things that you need to change instantaneously, all the details of a plan that you have designed. How did you develop this idea, actually?
Yeah, so I would say we got a lot of help from the market there, because while we were designing these tools just for ourselves, basically, I figured, why don't I share some videos of the tools on social media and Instagram, LinkedIn, and these kind of things. And I had never expected anyone else to care. I mean, because the Grasshopper community was fairly small by then, and I figured I just wanted to share it with my peers. So I did that, and turns out thousands of people started to liking the videos, and construction companies were starting calling us, can we buy these kind of things, and so on. And we figured, and this back then we were still running the architecture studio, and that's when we figured, okay, let's just fold the architecture studio and turn this one into a proper software
startup
company. Yeah, a startup. So, because, I mean, that was much more exciting, building a product that you actually can sell to a lot of people. We also had a possibility to influence a lot more, collaborate with the top architecture firms all around the world, and making a great tool for them so they can shape the future of our cities, basically. So that was very exciting, and I'm very happy we went down that road, basically.
And obviously, this tool will definitely help a lot in the process for architects. But before continuing about Finch 3D, what do you think actually AI can help architecture? What do you think AI, artificial intelligence, can have a role in architecture in the future?
For starters, with AI, it's going so fast now. So the only thing we can be sure of is that what I'm saying now is probably not true in a couple of years. But I think we just in the beginning see what the capabilities of AI are. And what I hope to see is that AI helps us take better decisions and automate a lot of repetitive tasks and these kind of things that is not necessarily helping us creating better cities and better architecture, but only just eating time from our profession. What I don't hope to see is AI kind of just generating some inspiration, and then you as an architect are stuck with all of the hard things. You need to solve the drawings and so on. But there's of course huge potential, and I'm sure AI can help us make better decisions early on in projects in general.
Mm-hmm. But right now about image generation, the tools that we have about image generation in architecture, they're being quite used a lot recently in the last 2 years. And it's now becoming an inevitable part of design process. Instead of starting anything from sketching, maybe you're using sketching as well, but brainstorming with Midjourney and the possibilities, exploring the possibilities is now booming, and lots of architects are using it. We have taught so many workshops, invited so many pioneers that they're doing with their work, and AI is now becoming, at least in the idea generation section, it seems like a fantastic tool. It has its own downsides as well. I totally agree with all those points about the credits, about the authorship, about the creating the same type of a loop designs for everyone. But also it has lots of good points. What do you think about the future of AI and its embedment in Finch 3D, in softwares like Finch 3D? And do you work on any AI models with Finch 3D?
Yeah. So we use a number of different techniques, and all the popular ones like the neural networks, and we have looked a lot into graph neural networks and so on. And the thing that is very important, I think, with AI, that the tech that exists right now, at least, there are some things that are very well suited to solve with AI. The things that you mentioned, for example, like inspiration and image generation and so on, is just tremendous. And I think the things you can achieve with Midjourney, no one could dream about that like 5 years ago.
Absolutely.
And in Finch, we work a lot with graphs, for example. So graph neural networks and these kind of things are very well suited to describe relationships between spaces. Does this make sense? What kind of space can this be? And guide the algorithms and so on. And then there's other kind of problems in Finch or in the general design process that are more well suited for other types of for example, optimization algorithms and so on. And I think when AI is very strong for architects when it's kind of more subjective, inspirational kind of things. And when it comes to problems, for example, how many stairwells can we fit in this building and how many number of apartments, then I would probably go for more of an optimization algorithm or similar at the moment. So I think it's always important to keep in mind what problem are we trying to solve and what results we're trying to achieve, and then choose the right tech to solve that problems. But for sure, AI is already in Finch, and there will most likely just be more and more and more as we see advancement in the tech as well.
And you're bringing lots of features to architecture design process with Finch 3D, such as adaptive plans, high-speed iteration, optimized models, and fast-track decision-making with instant numbers. Can you discuss the importance of these in design process?
Yeah. So what we basically do in Finch is that we generate floor plans and a lot of data connected to them. And we do it really well and really fast. And it is this kind of puzzle of space, basically, that we're trying to do best in class. Then, of course, there's a lot of other problems or challenges in architecture, for example, terrain, facade works, and so on. But we believe in doing that really, really well. Like the essence of a building, in our opinion at least, is the composition of space. And that is what we do really, really well. And then our philosophy is to hook into other software like Rhino, Revit, Grasshopper, and so on, have a really, really strong connection. So you can do your composition of space very well in Finch, but at the same time, you can take advantage of your existing workflow built around Revit or Rhino.
Do we have this right now with embedment with Revit?
Yeah. So everything created in Finch then streams down to Revit as a proper Revit BIM model with proper Revit walls that you then can go in and add your own families to and so on. So yeah. So everything is, if you use Finch, Rhino, Revit, and Grasshopper are up and running very well.
All right, great. And I remember a couple of weeks ago that we had a meeting, you showcased the model and it was instantaneously syncing with Rhino.
Yeah.
It was fantastic, and it was very mind-blowing. So Finch 3D as a separate software, is there still a plugin that could be used inside Grasshopper, or is it just right now a separate entity software that is syncing with Rhino?
Yeah, so it's actually both. We have a Grasshopper plugin, but that is connected to our web app. So all the calculations are done in the cloud at our side, and then you sync back and forth. That opens up for a lot of very interesting workflow. For example, if you have a designing architect, they can sit and design in Finch, doing their plans, moving the furniture, and so on. And then you can have a computational designer in Grasshopper in a different city or country, whatever, time zone, sitting in Grasshopper, downloading the changes in real time and running their analysis on top of it and so on. So this kind of collaboration with a single source of truth in the cloud, I think is also one very important factor of future AEC software.
Absolutely. This collaborative environment and these cloud softwares are amazing. And I remember if we're doing lots of works digitally, using Google Clouds, using Adobe's and all these stuff, and they're a huge help. If we could have such a thing in architecture, actually there are softwares that are already some of them are doing it, and they're offering these cloud systems that could be allowed by different architects, even different disciplines could join to the same files and same server. They can do work and the same time on the same project. Each one, they can have their own layers, they can have their roles, and this is incredible. And if Finch is, with this feature, I think it's really great with Finch. And are you also offering this? I saw the Pro version is also released. So you have two separate offers, one for companies or businesses and one for individuals. Are there any limitations for the individual version that is not existing inside the business plans?
Yeah. So the way we started out, we're still early on with the software. It's up and running, working very well, and it's used by some of the top tier firms around the world. But what we started out with was signing these strategic customers, as we call them, and that could be a renowned architecture firm, for example. And the reason why we did that was to be able to have a direct feedback channel, basically. So they were running Finch, we talked to them, they came with input, we developed the feature, they came with new input and so on. So we developed the software with a lot of inspiration from real clients, real projects and so on, to make sure that it actually solves real problems. And this is where we're at now as well. But we also launched a Finch Pro version for individual users. And there's two big differences. The AI version that we sell to our strategic customers is the collaborative tool. The Pro version that anyone can sign up to now, actually, an individual account, basically. And there's also some limitation in functionality. But the basics like key figures, generation of stairwells, and these kind of things are included in Pro. So anyone can sign up to that part already now, actually.
Mm-hmm. That's incredible. So you said this AI feature is not for individuals.
No, so the AI part where we generate plans and these kind of things, where you can build your own plan library and so on, that one is not released yet. But we'll of course hope to do it as soon as possible when we think we're ready for it.
Awesome. So we don't want to talk about the downsides or any negative points, but what is the limitations of Finch 3D right now that you look forward to solving it in the future?
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, what we're doing is planning space, creating space within the building. And we're doing that really well and trying to be best in class on this kind of things. But of course, we're not doing everything that Revit does yet. So, Revit is a very powerful tool that can do a lot of different things. So to be really happy Finch users, I would say you need to be a little bit tech savvy. You need to think it's fun to connect different softwares, take the best of different worlds and so on. If you are the kind of user that wants to do everything in one software from your first sketches to the documentation and so on, we're probably not right for you yet.
And also the geometrical limitations. Do you have any geometrical limitations that, for example, for a specific type of the designs?
So first of all, I would say we've started with residential and early phases of a project, and there's different parts of Finch that can do different things. So for example, for the massing part and the key figures, that works at any typology, both building shape and you can do a hospital or office or whatever you like. Then when it comes to the generating things like circulation, apartment mix and so on, then it's residential first. At this phase, it also works at most shape. And then the third part, if it makes sense. So we have the massing, we have kind of the apartment mix, and then we have the actual unit layout. This works very well at the moment with the kind of standard apartment sizes, shapes, and so on. But of course, very complex things like organic shapes or 500 square meter penthouse and so on does not work as well yet in Finch. So it's like the bulk of it. Most of apartments that are being designed today works very well on kind of shapes and so on.
What do you see as the most important features that will be embedded in the next 5 years?
So one thing that we're working a lot with right now is how can we generate plans that follows exactly what the user wants to generate and also are, follow building codes and all of these kind of things. So we work a lot with involving the user more and more into the process. And that is of course very challenging because it's always easier to say, okay, just generate something here without any context. Okay, here Finch can generate thousands of suggestions and software companies are very happy. But in the design process, you need to let the user influence the result. You need to let the user say, okay, but I want to tweak it a little bit. I just want to generate this part. That, of course, becomes a much harder challenge to solve. And that's where our focus lies, to involve the users in the generative process, basically.
Can all these spatial characteristics could be measured and they can be transferred? For example, the amount of square meters for materials or these kind of stuff can be that embedded and be transferred also to other softwares.
I
think this is a very, very a huge help for architects.
So it can, for sure. We're very good at calculating areas and material use and these kind of things. And we sit very well. I usually say that the optimal workflow is that you start out with a great sketching tool like Ryan to do massing and these kind of things, like most of our clients actually does. Then you get the Finch, you detail the interior of the building, you make sure that you have the bathroom and everything that in place. Then you go over to Revit or BIM software to do the documentation and so on. And that is very similar to the process a lot of offices has now as well, that they have one tool that's very good at sketching and another tool that's doing the documentation, I would say.
What kind of vision do you have for the future of architecture, and what is the future like for architects? I mean, considering all these AI tools, all these apps and softwares, Finch 3D is one of them. What is the future like, do you think?
Yeah, that is, of course, very speculative, but I usually like to when I think, and that is, of course, both from a software developer and a product developer's perspective, but also as an architect, that I usually like to focus on the things that probably will not change. I mean, there are for sure a lot of changes to come with AI, with new tools and these kind of things. But there are also things that probably will not change. For example, the need to create better architecture or more enjoyable architecture, more sustainable architecture, these kind of things. And if you focus on these things, I think it's much more likely that you build a product or a company that are able to be around for a while. So I think it's important to look at AI as a tool, basically, that will help us as architects do better things, faster things, and so on. But the purpose is building better buildings. The purpose is not using AI, but we can hopefully do it together with AI. And that ties into the other point. I mean, I think the architecture profession will for sure change a bit, but I don't think it will change more than lawyers or doctors or anything else. I mean, it's just like now we have might have an AI revolution coming. We had an industrial revolution earlier on. I think they are tools, great tools, but there are so many subjective things in a building project. So I don't think architects will be replaced for quite a while, to be honest.
For sure, architecture is a tough profession, and it's so hard to create a good architecture. It's very, very hard, and it's a very tough job. And architecture is not about softwares. Architecture is not about buildings. Architecture is not about materials. It's not about engineering, but it's all of them. It's the combination. It's the mixture of all of these that makes an architecture. Or a good architecture is the mixture of all these parts that is done in the right manner, in the right place, and with the right people. That's the whole meaning of the architecture. Of course, on all these sides, we need architects to hands-on, and they can develop apps, softwares, medias like us. They can be offering tools for architects to build better environments. And it's so hard to think that architecture will change in a couple of years, because we are a very conservative industry, and technology advances so fast in other areas, but it takes time for us to fully accept it, and that has good points and bad points as well.
And I think there's also another aspect of the architecture profession. I mean, it's also a lot about dealing with people, and I mean, let's say that you're starting a big project. It can be hundreds of millions of dollars for a big project. There's all of these kind of things besides actually designing the building. I mean, you have to have a good relationship with the client, listen to them. You have to have a relationship with the municipality. What do they want to build here? What do they think is good from the city, the engineer? So the architect also needs to be very good at communicating, listening, and how do we factor all of these things that the city wants, the client wants, the structural engineer wants, and these kind of things. And that is I think the essence and a very tricky part of the profession.
Absolutely, and we've been always in exploration and actually in evolving the profession from many hundreds of years ago and even thousands of years ago. And I think that exploration and that evolvement is still on the go. And as we move ahead and the different technologies and different tools are embedding, we are redefining the practice, and all these tools are making a huge sense. And that exploration, I believe, should never stop. And we need also architects to go and work on softwares, to go and develop softwares, to go and do educational or anything like photography, because sometimes architects just understand architects, not anybody else. Unfortunately, this is something very bad, I think. The relationship of architects with developers, I think it's not good, actually. With engineers, it was not good. Now, developers, it's very tricky, actually. Sometimes the aesthetics aspects, the beauty, the spatial aspects. These are very tough things to transfer in bits and numbers to computer. I think that's very, very important to understand by architects, because we need architects to work on robots. We need architects to work on 3D printing. These can also create interdisciplinary roles for architects that they can take on and connect all these industries with architects. Otherwise, we're doomed. We're always in the influence of other technology companies that are imposing their ideas, even not understanding what architects actually need.
And I think, for me at least, I mean, architecture as a higher education, I think in architecture school, you learn a lot about, the design process, the creative process that can be applied to many other professions and many other things. And I have a good friend here at one of the big engineering firms, and we usually talk about the difference there, that the engineers are schooled to solve problems. They have this is the problem, this is the output we want, how do we achieve this kind of things, while the architects, we are schooled to just start from scratch. That is very hard, actually, and I don't think we talk about that enough.
Quite
and
often,
what we usually like to do with our engineering friends there is just change roles for a bit, so that the engineer can start from scratch, and we try to, and then you get a better understanding for each other.
Of course. Of course. I think that was a good analogy that you mentioned. Architects need to, draw a vision and draw possibilities. And of course, architects themselves should be a part of problem solving, how to achieve that vision, not to be standing aside and giving this work. Okay, now you're engineers, you have to figure it out how to do it. Yes, that's true. That's what engineers do, but also a bit of help actually would be nice. So architecture has lots of connections with art that allows it to be a bit look fancy or focusing on aesthetics part. But yes, I totally agree with you. And what do you think if we, with all these advancements and the tools that right now we have in design processes, what do you think educational system should be reflecting on this? And do we need a change in the education in schools? How can the schools be ready for these advancements, actually?
I think you should keep in mind that you're talking to a high school dropout that left school to play in the rock band. But
true.
I think in general, what you should focus on as a student or the educational system in general, of course, you always need to know the basics of a profession. But I as an employer, there are things that is very hard for me, and there are things that are very hard for the students, so to speak. So, I mean, I've been around in the business now for a while, and I have experience that a student never will have. But on the other hand, what they have that I don't have in the same. When you're young, when you're coming out of school, you have or you should have at least the drive and the curiosity, exploring new things, new tools. And as a young person, I think that is a strength if you can come to a employer or office and say, look at these new technologies, new things. I master them, and so on. And that is a great way, I think, to contribute to a firm, basically.
Absolutely.
The hunger.
Absolutely, yeah. After graduations, of course, all the minds, people need to explore and fly and explore different possibilities, and be taking a little bit more risk and acquiring some visions, and that's absolutely for sure. But sometimes the system is so hard to change because it's have been developed in the last 400-500 years, and it can't be broken or it can't be changed, the system. And the technology is moving so fast on that. And I think schools, need an official upgrade to make people more ready for the futuristic technologies that are emerging, and making them more ready to taking risks, starting new ventures, starting new companies, and exploring these old possibilities. Actually, what I also am interested to discuss with you is the entrepreneurship side of the work that you're doing with Finch 3D, and you are absolutely a good entrepreneur, has been exploring and trying to develop a startup. It's so hard to start a startup, I know that, and I've been there, and but I also
you're
want
doing
to.
it right now. I mean,
Yes.
you're building something. You started as an Instagram account, or that was how I got familiar with you, and
That's
now
right.
you have so much more. So
Yes, that's true. So to talk a little bit about the challenges of the path that you have gone through building Finch 3D, can you discuss a little bit about them?
there's probably never a good time to start a company. There's always challenges and so on. But having that said, I think you should just go and do it right away, because now is always better than later, I think. But starting a company, I think there's a couple of things that you should think about. I mean, it will be hard. It will also be fun, but for sure it will be hard. So I think it's important that you do something that you really like, that you're really passionate about and believe in. And I also think it's important that you do it with people that you like, basically. And I think one good advice I got was to team up with people that covers your blind spots, basically. So if you are an architect, for example, and you do not like sales, you don't want to talk to clients, okay, then you need to team up with someone that love sales and love talking to clients, for example, so you can cover for each other. Then it's just much easier running a company with people that can cover for each other, rather than, three guys all want to do the same thing. That is probably one tip I would give to young students or aspiring entrepreneurs.
Yeah, that's great. What kind of challenges you had? Maybe if you want to focus on that, because starting a startup, an architectural focused startup, as a tool, developing a tool that is not out there, but you are sharing a possibility that this tool could be out there, used by a mass number of architects, and when you see on the other side, there are giant companies who are already in business for hundreds of for decades, and they have lots of users. And what are those type of challenges? Convincing, building a deck, or investments, getting employees. Maybe you can talk about a little bit about those processes.
Yeah, for sure. In general, when it comes to both startups and other types of company, people put too much emphasis on the idea, and the idea is just a little part of the company and the product, and it is much more about the execution. So you have a great idea. This idea will change anyhow during the lifetime of the company. And when it comes to execution, it is not just about designing a good product or similar. It's about those kind of things that you mentioned. How do we build a good team? How do we recruit talented people? How do we attract them? How do we build a good culture in the company? It is about how do we sell the product, or as in many startups and Finch, how do we attract venture capital? How do we build a story that is also appealing to venture capital, not just for architects and so on? And all of these kind of things you just need to learn. And there's a lot of people out there that knows how to do this thing, that you can ask for advice. Just give them a call and say, hey, I'm doing this, can you help me? Can you so there's a lot of different things to learn. There's a lot of people that can help you, but you need to be open-minded about it and willing to accept help, I would say, here as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Building a company is quite it's a tough process. The idea is just maybe 1% of the whole process, but the whole thing is 99%. And managing stress is a huge part of it. Some people break under stress, and
that's how it is. And I mean, in our case, we were running a traditional architecture firm. We were selling hours. I mean, we made a drawing, we sold it, and so on. And then when we started Finch, we had to learn how to transition into a tech company, basically. And then it's about the other things. For example, how do you? I mean, building software is it's expensive. You need talented people working on it, and you need a lot of them. So how do we attract venture capital, for example? This becomes like a big part of the company, how, and also steers a bit, what kind of decisions you're making and how do you develop the product and so on. So, but it's I love it. I think it's very fun.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. One question after the script: are there any competitors who are doing the same type of developments?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's coming a lot of really interesting startups right now, and I would say I don't think I have anyone that I view as a competitor of many reasons. I think first of all, there's no one doing exactly the same as we do. But if we look at other startups like Spacemaker that now turn into Forma, we have TestFit or Rayon and so on. I think all of these new tools are actually helping each other as well, making the market more mature and together we're talking to the firms and they are becoming more aware. And I think if we were the only new tool, I think it just would become much harder, basically. And for that sort, I think there's for quite a while or foreseeable future there are also room for more tools, basically. So,
and if you want to mention, how many people are you working with in the team right now?
We're 12 of us in our team. So we're still a fairly small team, which is very nice. We can still iterate very fast, trying new features, react on customers' ideas and wishes and so on. So it's I would say it's a very good size when you want to run fast.
Yeah, right. And this 12 people is mostly architects, or you have also developers, probably other professions.
Yeah. So me and Pamela, 2 out of 3 founders of the company, are architects by training, and then we have most of it are developers or coders, basically, and then of course a couple of people in marketing and sales and these kind of things.
Okay, cool. That's great. Well, thank you so much for all the conversations. And the last 2 questions that I have: what do you think about our platform, PA?
Yeah, I think it's very nice, actually. And as I mentioned earlier on, I first got to know you when you were an Instagram account, basically, and I just started following. And I think it's very impressive how you've scaled it now into becoming so much more like an educational platform. You're doing these talks. You had a lot of great guests here and so on. But what really attracted me in the beginning, way back, was actually this kind of account where you know what you're getting. If you're interested in parametric architecture, great new things, you always provided a lot of content, very high quality. And I think today, when there's just so much noise out there with different things, of course, this is a personal opinion, I really like these kind of accounts where you can go, they're very specialized, you know what you're getting, you can go there for inspiration, see what's happening out there and so on. So that is probably my personal relation to your platform here. But it's going to be very, very, very interesting to see where you're taking it, what's happening, the next steps here, and so on.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to connect with people like you and talk to them and share ideas. And what we started basically doing in the platform was to collect and share advancements in technology and architecture. And we wanted to build a library of good, high-quality parametric design works. So that was the basic initial idea where we started PA, and to somehow build a library where people can explore different possibilities and ideas.
Yeah.
But after that, we also saw a need to educate the next generation.
Yeah, that's maybe the next step, the PA University. Maybe you're the one that replacing the traditional education.
Hopefully.
I'll apply.
We don't. Yeah, thank you so much. Well, yeah, physical stuff a little bit hard, but yeah, we do everything online, so we can give access to many people around the world and make them available so they can join and learn.
Yeah.
So in closing, what kind of advice would you like to share with young talents and the emerging or aspiring architects?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say learn the basics of the profession and then focus on, new tools. A combination of these two. Learn the basic, about composition of space. How does a building work and these kind of things? You need it. Of course, you need that. But then don't be afraid of new techniques, as you said, Mid-Journey or Grasshopper or parametric design or this kind of thing. I think just dig into that, because that is the thing that you can actually, I think that will contribute a lot when you're then going to apply for job later on. And maybe the most thing, it's important that you think it's fun. And I mean, you cannot go into Grasshopper if you don't like it. I mean, you need to do the things that you think are fun, I would say, if you really want to become really good at something.
Well, thank you so much, Jesper. This was a really brilliant conversation, and I enjoyed it a lot. And yeah, looking forward for Finch 3D. And yeah, I think it has great potentials. And congratulations to you, first of all, and your wife and your other partners and your entire team that are making a huge difference in architecture. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having us and me.
Thank you.
See you.
See you. Bye. Guys, thank you so much for watching the episode. I hope you enjoyed it a lot. Again, I want to spotlight Pacademy, an online architectural educational platform that spreads the idea of using parametric design, computational tools, and artificial intelligence in architecture. You can register and join the live workshops or watch the previous studio workshops recordings. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell notification so you don't miss any new uploads. Thank you so much for watching the episode. Hope to see you soon in the future episodes.